Welcome to another episode of the Coaster101 Podcast. This is Nick Weisenberger coming to you from Dublin, Ohio. I have not one, not two, not three, not four, but five special guests on the show today. It's the members of Team 385, the champions of the 2023 TPEG Alumni Community Theme Park Design Competition. Ooh, that's a mouthful. And if you don't know, TPEG stands for Theme Park Engineering Group. So this alumni community is made up of seasoned professionals from Ohio State University who are passionate about giving back and connecting with the next generation of theme park designers. If you go back, there's an earlier podcast episode where we talked to some of the alumni community members about why they created this very cool competition for college students to show off their skills. This was during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic when a lot of students lost summer jobs or internships due to the pandemic. So for the 2023 version of the competition, the registration was in January of this year. The product submission deadline was in April, and the winners were just recently announced earlier in the month of May. And just so you know, in order to keep the judging fair, when projects are submitted, no names or schools are listed anywhere on the project. Each team is known by their team number, in this case 385. This way the judges have no idea, which students or schools worked on which projects, so there's no bias there, and it's fair judging. So let's bring them in now. The members of the first place team, Team 385, Andrew, David, Ella, Jacob, and Audrey. Introduce yourselves. What's your name, your major, your professional goal or dream job is. So let's start with you, Andrew.
Yeah, so my name is Andrew Yates. I'm going to my third year as mechanical engineering at Ohio State. This past year, I was acting as the industry chair for the theme park engineering group at Ohio State. And this next year, I will be the vice president and project manager. So I'm studying mechanical engineering. I have a minor in entertainment, design, and technology. And right now my goal is just to have a engineering design position in the themed entertainment industry.
I'm David Manguiat. I just graduated this past spring with a degree in operations management and a double minor in organizational psychology and music enterprise. I was the vice president and project manager of our theme park engineering group this past semester. So I'm handing it off the mantle to Andrew, which is super exciting. And in the fall, I'll be moving to Denver to work in human capital consulting. So helping organizations solve people problems, but I've always been interested in the arts. So way down the line, I think something like entertainment project management would be super fun, or like being a music producer for live entertainment.
So my name's Audrey Nelson. I'm going into my second year of mechanical engineering at Ohio State. I guess I just finished my first year. So eventually I'd like to get some sort of engineering job in the themed entertainment industry. I'm still trying to figure out what my likes and dislikes are, when it comes to design or project management and stuff like that. So I'm still thinking about it, but definitely a themed entertainment is down the line for me.
My name's Rudkin, and I am a second year mechanical engineering student at Ohio State. Right now, this past year, I was social chair for our club, which is really fun. And now I'm going to go and be the president, which is exciting. I'm very excited. But yeah, I also just want to end up in the themed entertainment industry. Hopefully, I can make it there. I feel like I'm doing all the right things. So, yeah.
Yes, I think joining groups like theme park engineering and doing competitions like these is a very good start. I also want to say, I think at Coaster 101 here, we have a very good track record of students we've interviewed getting jobs in the themed entertainment field. Like if you go to coaster101.com, up at the top, there should be a tab that says interviews. If you go back and look at some of the names there and Google them now, you'll see that there's a lot of students that found their way into the industry. All right, so what about you, Jacob?
So I'm Jacob English. I just finished my third year of mechanical engineering at Ohio State. I'm thinking about minoring in robotics. This year I was on the site planning committee for TPEG OSU, with site being a conference we host every year, inviting students and professionals out to Ohio State to connect and learn about the industry. I really want to do something with engineering design, preferably in themed entertainment. Either doing something with robotics design or with roller coaster design would be absolutely fun,
I was able to attend the site conference this year. Very good conference. Excellent job by you students putting that on every year. And if our listeners want to know more about that, you can just go to Coaster 101 and search site and read my article about it. Did you guys all know each other before the competition? I mean, you all go to Ohio State, which is different than some of our other teams that actually went to all different schools and didn't know each other, but did you all know each other before the competition?
Yeah, we did.
I think we all knew each other pretty well. Definitely didn't have a strong relationship with Audrey, and then I somewhat knew Jacob, but we definitely grew closer with working on site, and then this project definitely had a lot of work together as well.
I was the vice president and project manager this past year, and one of our hallmark projects is Light Up the Lake, which is a holiday light show put on by our club at Ohio State's campus around this lake that we have called Mirror Lake. And Audrey and Jacob were on the team for that. So I spent many, many, many hours with them working. So we've gotten to know each other, and I was friends with Andrew and Ella too. So it's been a super fun group. It really did feel like just a bunch of friends hanging out, coming up with cool, fun ideas, lots of dumb ideas along the way too, which has made it all very exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome that you have that kind of a relationship. This is the third year of the alumni competition. Had you done any of the previous other two, or had you done any other design competitions like this before?
I don't think any of us on this team did. I think there might have been an Ohio State TPEG group that did one of the competitions in the past, but this is the first time that any team from Ohio State had won the competition.
Hadn't done anything theme entertainment design related, but in business school, they have a lot of case competitions or like simulated business problems that you tackle. So I've had a lot of those. So this was my first time being able to go into the fun entertainment realm and thinking like, oh, no way, this is kind of like a hack, but cross-functional, and you kind of get to throw ideas around. So it's, a lot more fun than the typical business case, I think.
Yeah, and that was kind of my question, is like, what made you want to do this competition?
I think what made me want to do this competition is you can always do personal projects with yourself, but having a team project that has limitations and set deadlines forces you to work well with others and be creative, and it mimics more of what it would be like in the real world rather than doing a personal project on your own time with your own skills.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like there's some accountability built into it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and to follow with what David said, like we don't really get the opportunity like during school to do such a creative project. I mean, especially like in mechanical engineering. I mean, like we have design projects, but not like solely. Like I feel like this was a lot of art. Like we focused a lot of our time on our art in our project, and like in our classes we'll do like CAD and stuff, which we saw previous like competitors have used that before, but I really think like incorporating art and like our other skills like made this competition really like grab our attention and participate in it.
Yeah, that's exactly why I did it too. Like I just wanted to be creative, not just do math all day or physics or school or like hang out with my friends. And it was really a break from school. It was really nice just to have that.
An opportunity to branch out and do something different.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I really liked the opportunity to be able to like apply a lot of creative thought on this too. And also like it kind of applied some stuff that I was learning this year about like making better PowerPoint presentations. And it was just kind of cool seeing as we were putting this together I feel like our presentation turned out really beautifully.
Oh yeah.
And we used some of the principles that I learned this year.
Well, let's get into the your presentation and the competition more. Every year there's a different prompt, a different challenge. This year the prompt was, malls were once the cultural epicenter of cities and towns across America. With the rise in online shopping, however, many of these malls now sit empty and deserted. You work for a company that has been tasked with repurposing these abandoned spaces. You must create a new indoor entertainment center using the foundation and basic structure of the mall that came before. The mall you are refurbishing is 2 stories tall and 500,000 square feet. You get to choose what city and state this imaginary mall will be located. Your design must include the following elements: 2 attractions or entertainment experiences, 1 experiential retail location with a themed element, and 1 dining location with signature food items. So I'm curious, what was your reaction when you guys read the prompt for the first time?
Yeah, it was very like, we saw the prompt, we're like, okay, we can do a lot with this. And we kind of just ran with it. Like, literally, I think first day that we met, we're like, okay, this is the theme, like, cryptids. Because, like, Andrew has been researching cryptids, and he's like, let's do this.
Well, hold on. Can I back up a little bit? When we first saw the prompt, we knew that it had to be it had to be within inside a mall, and from recent history, we knew it'd kind of have to be almost like a family entertainment center, because that's been for I know Scene 75 is the most notable, have taken existing buildings or even Otherworld.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention. Like, not too far from Ohio State's campus is one of the biggest, family entertainment centers in the country, in Scene 75.
Yeah, so we knew that it had to be something like that, where it's like a small theme park within the mall that sticks. I guess Scene 75 doesn't necessarily have an overall theme per se, but that was just one of our motivations through this, is something like that. And then the theme came from somehow I had been interested in cryptids at the time. I just thought I was just looking into it from my own personal interest, and I threw that out, and there were other ideas that we liked. I can't remember any of them.
Well, yeah, so it was a lot of, we had our meeting. I went through the prompt and introduced it to everyone, because, I'm the one who's supposed to be, getting these projects to our club. And, we all sit down as a team, we're talking about it. And I think pirates came up as one of the themes. And then we started thinking about mazes. And Andrew just spits out cryptids. And we're like, what? But what's funny is,
what is that?
Right. And then he was going into, Bigfoot Loch Ness Monster. We're like, oh, that'd be so cool. And then we're like, we can also use ChatGPT to kind of help us, think through this. So we're like, how would you, approach a prompt? And one of those results was cryptids or something like that. And we were like, well, that's pretty validating. I feel like, this perfect puzzle piece has fallen in front of us, and we're just going to continue rolling with it. And it kind of just took off from there. The idea really had its own breath of life.
Yeah, I think a lot of our success for this project overall, we just all seem to really cling onto this idea together just from the start. We were like, this sounds incredibly fun, a little bit spooky, but also fun, so it appeals to all audiences. And I think that joy for it just helped us do well.
I was going to say, if you look across existing theme parks and amusement parks, there are some rides out there that are already themed to cryptids, or mythical creatures. In most parks will have something like that. But this is the first one that specifically only cryptids, I guess you would say.
And you could have chose to locate this mall anywhere in the world, and you picked West Virginia? Really? Why West Virginia?
Point Pleasant is home of the Mothman, and we figured that would be a great place to put a cryptid-themed mall, since they have one of the most famous cryptids in the world there.
Yeah, it was just our little Easter egg.
The name of the attraction is actually the Lost Trails. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just brainstorming. We're like, we want something mysterious with the woods idea in this mall. And so, of course, we went to ChatGPT to spark our brainstorming, because sometimes we just get stuck, as most people do. And the Lost Trails popped. I think it was a Lost something. I forget what it's called. And then something Trails popped up. And we're like, okay, let's combine the two. And I think and we were debating on the name, if we should keep the name. And I think we made the good idea of keeping it.
Yeah, it was a lot of trial and error of, we would type in the description of, how do we want it to feel? What are we thinking about? And we're like, I liked this list of words, so can we tune it more toward that route? And I remember the word enigma, for whatever reason, kept coming into our search results. And we're like, man, I love the word enigma, but it does not roll off the tongue for this attraction. Yeah. But, we keep generating these lists, and the Lost Trails, was one of those handful that really stuck out to us as great options. And, it just goes to show how helpful of a tool it was to kind of help us really narrow down our thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also...
I was going to say, I think the name was never really important to us. We were always focusing on the attraction itself and the theming and all the details. And then all the names for things were almost the last part. It was just what would fit this the best?
Yeah, and we wanted the name to be able to be remembered or rolled off the tongue, like David said. We didn't want some weird name, if you're walking through a park, you can't remember what this is called and what that's called. So we tried to make, including our title of our park and every area, we tried to make it so that it was easy to remember and easy to say.
Oh yeah, that makes total sense. So you've mentioned ChatGPT a couple times. I was wondering what other tools or software did you use to put your project together?
I use a lot of Procreate. That most of the drawings are on Procreate. I really use that to my I downloaded it before the project, like without knowing I was going to do the project. And I was like, oh, I could definitely use this. And I figured out basically everything about Procreate you can possibly know because I spent so much time drawing stuff.
For me, I use Sketchbook, which is just pretty much the free version of Procreate. Yeah.
No, you guys were spitting them out. It was awesome. And Ella was creating these posters for all the cryptids. So for the soundtrack, I was using Logic Pro because I do a lot of music composition and film scoring for fun as a hobby. And to create the trailer music, I was just staring at Ella's posters in silence and thinking, all right, this theme's going to come to me. So it really was like a Hans Zimmer kind of moment. But that was one unique tool. And then for the Bigfoot pancakes, I used Photoshop, and I spent like 3 hours on that. So I am not as artistically inclined as they did. I used Notability to sketch out these concepts and then said, Ella, can you make it pretty, please? We all really built off each other for that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, PowerPoint to round it all together at the end.
Oh, yes. Good old PowerPoint.
Yeah. Well, I also used a bit of Planet Coaster in making the ride trailer and iMovie for editing the ride trailer. But I used like Planet Coaster for building like basically Mothman the ride in the game and assembling like all the different show scenes from the storyboard that we came up with and just like kit bashing different items from Planet Coaster to make like the Mothman and the Thunderbird.
Yeah, we'll have to come back to the coaster in a little bit. So I've got your presentation pulled up, and I'll put the link in the description to your presentation so that everyone can see it. And I would recommend everyone does, because a lot of the things like we've been talking about with the artwork, get to see all the hard work that you guys put into this. I've got the presentation open. I'm just scrolling through it here. So one of the first things you have kind of like the themed areas with the Bigfoot and Untamed Treasures and the cafe. First, you have the briefing room, which has this Lost Trails Discovery Band.
So specifically, I guess with the Discovery Band, we all had this idea that it would be useful to have something that every park guest could have it, automatically, they wouldn't have to pay for it and they could use it throughout the entertainment center, kind of like how Disney uses their Magic Band or Nintendo World uses their band. It's just interactive and you can use it when you want. And specifically with the theme of the Discovery Band, when I was creating the look of it, I tried to make it look like the bands that people use when they go out hunting and stuff like that. It starts with a P, I forget what it's called, but I tried to theme that band based off of cryptids and going in the forest and hunting and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then the band would be your ticket of entry to the park. So in the briefing room, it looks like you're walking into this wood cabin, and the transitions to this metal wall room that you're getting, this is going on, you're going to be doing these things, and there's the projector and all that with a little show scene.
Yeah, and there's a lot of inspiration taken from what the bands will do at Super Nintendo World, or the ones at Great Wolf Lodge, or the ones at
Magic
Harry Potter World.
Bands.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
You can create these unique experiences for yourself, through a customized kind of accessory that you can carry around. It's both comfortable and easy, but yeah, it's kind of where it took off.
And then the next sort of attraction you highlight here is the Canopy Cafe with the signature item, the Bigfoot pancakes. Did anyone actually make some Bigfoot pancakes?
I got very, very close. And in my head was, have you guys been at Cracker Barrel before? Because it's I just, the entire time I was photoshopping those pancakes, I was thinking of that oaky, rich Cracker Barrel pancake flavor. And I'm pretty sure I thought of that on my way to our meeting. And I was like, oh shoot, I forgot to create some foods for our menu. And I'm thinking about, Bigfoot pancakes. That kind of works out. And a lot of this is just crafting experiences that we think would be fun if we were to be able to be immersed in. So I think it isn't too radical to say that a lot of the menu was created from things that was on my mind at the time I was making the menu, and thought, man, that sounds really good.
The other thing I really liked that you did is, as a parent, I like that you also made the Crypt Kid menu. And not only do you have the menu with the food items on there and the prices, but you also have little activities that the kids can do as well.
Yeah, so I was actually in class, and I did a lot of these in class, as Andrew can attest because he was sitting next to me. And so I was like, okay, I have nothing, I don't want to learn right now. So I'm like, I'm gonna make a kids menu. So then I just like I think Jacob spit me some, or David spit me some food items, and I was like, okay, put that on there. And then I was like, oh, let's trace out the Loveland frog, and like let's like I did like a dot connect the dot generator on what's it called? I insert an image of Loch Ness Monster, and then like for some reason I thought it was a great idea to make this foot maze, which was so annoying to do, and it just wasn't working. And I'm like, I'm just gonna do it anyway.
I also want to say that I like thought it would be a great idea to do like the frog legs for the Loveland frog, because I feel like that crypt is just like more, I guess, like friendly, and like I feel like kids would be, more inclined to like, I guess, the idea of that cryptid, and especially since we have that meet and greet specifically in our park. Like I just thought like we have to have a kids menu surrounded by Loveland frog. Like it's just got to happen.
So then next we come to the immersive walkthrough number 1, the Bigfoot encounter. What is the Bigfoot encounter?
We have two kind of immersive walkthroughs in here, and both are a chance to come up close with cryptids in their own environment. So with the Bigfoot encounter, the idea is there's this abandoned national forest that had some disappearances, and rumors have floated around of the Sasquatch or Bigfoot being within those woods. So with the CDA, which is the overarching agency that you're a part of throughout this entire attraction, you go with them you're the new recruits to go check out this Misty Hemlock National Forest. And through this experience, you use your wristband, and you can tap to interact with many different locations throughout, such as we had it to where you could tap it and it would light up Bigfoot footprints or fireflies, and then mark certain constellations to solve puzzles and such. And then it would open up bushes to reveal which pathway to take. And then one big part of this part of the walkthrough would be the maze, which we said would be through the forest with mirrors, plexiglass, and vines, just to be like lost in the woods, to have that sensation. And then towards the end, it would end with a meet and greet. You come across someone's campsite, and you meet Bigfoot, who doesn't speak other than just grunts, and then his friend, the camper named Backpackin' Bill. And so he would talk to you, and just a fun way to end it, I guess.
Which is funny because Backpacking Bill, that inspiration came from the menu first. Because I was trying to think of a food name, and I was like, what's something that, getting that alliteration, that's it. Getting the alliteration in, and Backpacking Bill from the menu now became a character within our attraction. So that was great. Great move on you.
Yeah, so when you're in the campsite, I guess the whole idea is that you just come across the campsite and you're like, oh, you can tell that someone's been here. And then the reveal is you go into the tent, and Bill and Bigfoot are there together. And so that's your opportunity to meet them, take pictures with them, I guess, as a guest. And from there, it would just exit right back into the main atrium.
And after that, another major attraction is the immersive walkthrough number 2, the Loch Ness Expedition.
I did a lot of background research and history from that, and that's where a lot of these concepts are kind of drawing from. So the castle that we picked as our main setting that you're kind of walking through is the same castle that is attributed to having the most Loch Ness Monster sightings in the first ones. So I think it's been fun trying to dig into that history and looking at all these different accounts, but it's also a challenge because you're opening up this box, and a lot of these accounts from Nessie have dated back to like 565 AD, over down to like 2010s or so. So a lot of it was kind of picking and choosing, what do we kind of want to feature, what kinds of things do we put our own original spin on. And I think the big element that we tried to bring in was, what are the capabilities that we could use with the Discovery bands, what kind of new illusions. And I've been doing magic since I was 8. So, I really like all the perspective illusions and trying to figure out creative ways to make these effects happen. And that's kind of what came through a lot of the focus of this walkthrough. So, it kind of starts out, there was a big focus on storytelling of, you have this speaker that's kind of walking you through, informing you of your next tasks or steps. And then a little bit of like a light trail, which at the time I was playing Hogwarts Legacy, which is where that idea came from. Of you have a spell and it kind of like leads you down the trail. And I thought that could be fun within a maze kind of deal where you have lights on the ground that kind of lead you as your guide per se. But then using the Discovery Band in creative ways, like there's this. I had this idea for constructing on top of ruins. So the current castle in Scotland is in ruins. And I thought, what better way to kind of bring those ruins and fully build them out than to use things like glow in the dark. So if you enter a dark room and you only see glow in the dark bricks, you can make it look like it's just ruins and then have some sort of projection mapping to illuminate the rest of the building that existed. So using illusions like that has been super fun. Or there's been lots of false sightings of Nessie. So there's a part of the walkthrough where you go in and there's a strobe light flash, and what you thought was a picture of Nessie becomes like a log, which was actually reported at some point. And then the final encounter was this mix between a screen hidden behind some practical shrubbery and trees and such. And in the screen, you see Nessie, starting to come towards you at the end of the attraction, and it starts getting closer and closer. And at the end, you have a practically mechanically made Nessie kind of pop up out of the water. It splashes you, it roars, everyone's screaming, having a good time. So it was kind of cool to create those elements of tension and suspense, through both the storytelling and Discovery Bands and kind of these historical concepts that we've done some research on.
Very cool. Yeah, definitely sounds like you spent put a lot of thought and effort into that. But probably the biggest attraction for us roller coaster enthusiasts is Mothman the Ride, which is this kind of mock ride, suspended roller coaster with powered dark ride sections. You even have the overhead layout of the coaster in the presentations here. So what kind of inspired you? Why use that ride system?
Well, the ride system is inspired by one. There's a ride I think at Universal based on I think Pterodon Flyers is it's called, where it's a mock ride powered coaster that you're suspended on that spins, and one in Europa Park called Arthur the Ride that's the same thing. And these are really good coasters because it gives you the opportunity to have almost a dark ride section to the coaster where it can tell a story, and you can see all these cool animatronics and showpieces throughout that story. But because it's a roller coaster, you get the thrilling sections also, where it's just going around like a turny layout. You get some thrills too.
And the Universal one you're referring to is at the new park, Universal Beijing.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah. And we chose the Mothman especially for this because you're basically flying around underneath the Mothman as he takes you on this journey. The Mothman, like we said before, is also one of the most popular cryptids out there, one of the most iconic ones. So obviously you want to theme your biggest ride off of the most popular attraction.
And would you say you put the most amount of work into this one attraction as well? Because I see you have a ride trailer and a soundtrack.
I think so. I think we put in a lot of hours into this one, especially David putting out that killer soundtrack. Oh my god, that was just perfect, dude.
Well, I think, a lot of, what's been fun about this project is just us building off of each other's excitement of, we were at the same room at the same time because we had to be there. And once we started talking, we were really getting excited about these concepts and thought, this is so fun. I would love to see this come to life. So, the Mothman the Ride, it started out as a bunch of different show ride concepts, and we had written out storyboards and different descriptions of, how would we want this ride to feel, and how can we incorporate storytelling, into this coaster essentially. So we had that base layer, and everything just kind of happened naturally. Of we all had different things we're bringing to the table. Of what unique skills or what things do you want to showcase into our project. And for me, music's always been part of my life. The light show that we had, I composed music for some of that. So that was one of the first things that I was thinking, if there's an opportunity, I would love to kind of contribute that piece of art to our project. And Jacob had a great ride trailer that kind of brought all these pieces together of our stories that we were starting to create into Planet Coaster, and seeing all of these elements come together. That started from one of Ella's posters, which became the show concepts, which became the ultimate ride trailer. It's just been super, super, super cool to kind of see something that started as an idea in our heads out onto our screens or onto paper, and kind of actually fleshed out.
I was just going to mention, like, if you look at our ride layout, you can see that the coaster goes into the atrium, so, like, the main hub of the park, and we all, like, had that idea of, like, let's put the, like, main attraction, like, let all the guests see it as they walk through the park, which would invite them to the back, like, to the roller coaster. And also, it's just, like, pretty cool, like, when you think of the ride plot, like, you're kind of, like, the ending is through the park, so that's just, I thought, was a pretty cool element we added, and we all, like, agreed to have.
Yeah, and we knew we wanted, with this being based off of the mock ride suspended powered coaster, we knew we wanted it to have sections of roller coasters and sections of the animatronic.
Something I really like about Mothman the ride is that it kind of, in addition to combining all of our like skills and ideas together, it also like combines everything from the park together as like one final, basically final experience that you can have at the park.
It pulls everything together.
Yeah, it pulls everything together, where you have a bunch of different cryptids that you encounter looking for the Mothman, like the Chupacabra or the Thunderbird, and it just helps continue that theme and helps tie everything together with the CDA.
Yeah, and Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster are both very well-known cryptids, and Mothman is also up there, but also there's a lot more mystery to it, and a lot of people don't know anything more than that it exists. And being a flying cryptid, it lends itself to being a roller coaster a lot more than the other two, while still being popular enough to draw people into it. And so I think that's why we chose it, because it was mysterious and fast and was the most interesting, I think, to develop into a whole story.
Right. And, for me, I hadn't heard much of Mothman. Like, I'd heard Mothman, but I didn't really know what he was or any of the history behind that. So I was doing a lot of reading on his side. And the whole story of, like, the first reported sightings of Mothman are just fascinating and kind of helped build off the music. And, it's these people that were just, like, in the dark inside of a camp. And you see, like, these red glowing eyes, like, shoot up at you. And it starts to, the figure starts to rise. And, like, that's Mothman. So, just the whole story itself is frightening. And, when I'm thinking about the music, I brought a lot of like organ and then a lot of like, inspiration from old horror soundtracks. And I think that conceptually, the Mothman story is both very cool, very exciting, and not that well known as compared to, Bigfoot or Nessie or anything like that. So that's been super cool as well.
So would you say it's a family-friendly ride, or is it maybe a little too scary?
I think it's family-friendly, but parents should probably make sure their kids are okay with like flashing lights and dark scenes.
What's the height restriction?
What's the height restriction on Arts of the Ride?
It better be at least 5'5", otherwise I can't ride it, guys.
One of the interesting things that David mentioned was communication, which I find interesting because this competition really started as a result of COVID, and like the first team who won, they were spread out all over the country and they didn't really even have the option to meet in person because of the pandemic. But it sounds like you guys were able to meet, face to face a lot. So I don't know if that really gives you an advantage or not, but I think it's just interesting that there's, it kind of shows there's not, one formula that you have to go by to work. Like lots of different strategies can work.
For me, my major was operations management. I'm going into the consulting world, and I really, really enjoy project management. So it was cool to kind of, introduce those concepts, and some of those, we were using Microsoft Teams a little bit to kind of organize our thoughts. And then, also using things like GroupMe, just talking at meetings, things that all college students do. So it was a very natural planning progression. But, it's very easy to communicate with people that you just consider your friends. So a lot of it was just kind of hanging out and texting one another and saying, oh man, I've got this great idea, and sharing it with the rest of the group. So I think, for us, it's been very nice to be able to have the option of both in person and work on some stuff virtual. I know that the last meeting when the whole group was grinding stuff out, I got super sick and I couldn't make it, but they were texting me and saying, David, can you finish this up? Can you send this out? So there was, definitely that level of flexibility for us to be able to actually execute and finish up the project.
Yeah, and then so for our schedule for meeting, the way we did it, we would all go to the theme park engineering group meetings anyways. So we just had our meeting an hour beforehand. So we'd get working on
Smart.
this project and then immediately just go to our general body meetings. And that worked out for most of the semester until the last week or two where we decided, oh, we need to get it together and finish this. And that last couple days before, we were in the basement of Scott Laboratories at Ohio State for maybe 6 or 7 hours.
Yeah, we had the big talk right before then of, okay, here's where we're at, here's what we need to accomplish. Do we think we have time and bandwidth to finish this project, or do we just abandon it? So
Yeah.
it was really that down to the wire.
Oh,
Yeah, we were all kind of like, almost like, I know, me and Andrew were talking like during class, we're like, is it gonna happen? And we're all like, we don't want this project to die because it's such a cool concept, and we're like, I think we can like do something with it, but do we have time? So like, this project was like almost gonna die, and we're like, no, we need to save it. Like, the last day, I think I was at like the engineering building for like 12 hours.
Oh, wow.
I stopped to get pizza, and then like everyone else came, like, okay, because I had nothing going on, but
Hopefully it was all worth it.
Definitely worth
Oh,
it.
definitely.
Absolutely.
And that was an advantage of being able to meet in person and not being separate, because we were able to sit in the room, share the ideas instantaneously back and forth, rather than have to send an email back and forth and such. So that definitely helped us out a lot.
Yeah, being in person definitely helped when we were in a bit of a crunch, because then if I had like an image and we needed to get it to someone else to work something into the image, we could just airdrop it instead of having to message and wait for a reply.
Yeah, and it was so much more bearable, when we were kind of all enduring it
Yeah.
together, and we were just kind of letting the Spotify playlist roll in the background, and we're just kind of working on stuff and having some laughs. And at this point, Sight happened like right at the end too. So Andrew was getting super stretched thin between juggling both the conference and our project that was happening. But the benefit was one of those long meetings, we just all had the leftover food from from the conference, so we were munching on sandwiches, just kind of hunkering away on all this art and stuff. So in the moment a little stressful, but overall it's very fun.
Yes. So how do you manage your time, and how do you manage, who's responsible for what? Do you just kind of naturally choose things, or do you just divvy up the roles somehow?
We kind of just divided it evenly based on who was interested in doing what, and who was able to do what.
Yeah,
it was
and
kind of like, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, a lot
Everyone
of
displayed unique. Sorry. As everyone displayed unique skills and interest in different sections of this, so it was really easy to delegate who did what, because we all had a different part that we were like, "Ooh, I want to do that and cover that." And for me, I tried to pick ones that helped me step out of my comfort zone a little bit, such as art, which I'm not the best at.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely something to be said about choosing the right people to work with. I think throughout the project, any one of these group members that are here right now, like I would confidently say, I feel like was pulling their own weight and was willing to work and do everything they can to make this happen. And I think being able to trust and lean on one another and being able to play off each other's strengths is huge, and that's not something you have the luxury of having on every team that you're on for the rest of your life. So it was definitely a great privilege of being able to work, with these people, to have fun and both also be productive along the way.
Yeah, and I also think our passion for our idea and our project, like in general, like really helped us, at the end especially. Like we all assigned our different like parts of the presentation, but in the end, like we all helped each other, especially like I know me and Ella worked on the art a lot, and like if Andrew, David, or Jacob like weren't confident with it, like we definitely were like, yeah, like send it to us, like we can not fix it, but like improve it, make it better. And then like they did the same for us with certain things. So at the end, like we all just pulled ourselves together instead of just like finishing our own thing and then just like stopping. So that's like I follow with what David said, like every single team member on this team like pulled their weight and was like really passionate about the project, and it was really fun to work with all of them.
I don't know, with my stuff, you kind of fixed it.
It was good, David.
Thanks.
What was the biggest challenge or obstacle that you had to overcome?
Time. I would say.
Time.
Definitely.
Like
You never have enough of it.
No, we're all
We're like,
undergrads, and being an undergrad at Ohio State is absolutely, you get so many different things that just come up in the middle of a semester that you have to tackle like at that moment, and then you gotta push back what you're kind of doing in your free time a bit to tackle this schoolwork, and it's hard.
and like we were all like so excited about this project that we would literally during a meeting we would just like hype each other up and like hype up the project. We're like, we got nothing done. And we're like, great. And that was an issue, but it was also like it made us so excited for the project and we got it done. So no regrets there, but that was definitely a challenge.
I will say that hyping us up really helped us like refine this story. And
True.
part of me feels like that really helped, because if we hadn't had such like a commitment to this story and like hadn't really refined it, it might not have been as interesting of a part, because I feel like the story is really important.
One of the best parts about this entire project was at some point random in the week when I get a text from Ella or Audrey and say, "Hey, look what I just did. You know, how does it look?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's so cool." I'm so excited for the meeting to keep working on. Or one day I went to lunch and I ran into David at lunch and he was sitting at a table on his laptop and he had me come over and he was showing me all the research he was doing, and like he was like, "Here's the idea I came up with, the roller coaster, throwing in all many different ones. This is a very rough draft early on." And then he had his score for the thing ready to go that he stayed up the night before doing. And it wasn't at a meeting, it was just running into him and he showed me his ideas and I was like, wow, let's just keep going. Like the entire like time, there was always just new ideas popping up out of nowhere. And it was just cool getting to hear it from others as we were working on it together.
Yeah, and to further hunker down on the true life of a college student, that day when I ran into Andrew, I planned on staying at the dining hall the entire day because I was so behind on all my schoolwork. And instead, I was doing all this research and like composing this music and thinking, oh man, this is so much cooler than all the other stuff that I'm working on. So I think, it's one of those things of, as a college student, you kind of expect that it's just going to happen at the wrong time. Just the way that exams work out and homework and everything. But I don't know, it's, me being graduated and, kind of looking forward to the next stage of life. Those are going to be kind of the things that I'm going to miss of, making those small dumb decisions in the moment, but thinking like that was super fun to work on. And that's like a super fun story that I get to kind of hold. And that's the whole point of doing all these competitions in the first place. So yeah, it's been really cool.
What advice would you give for other students competing in future competitions? Or what's something you wish you had known at the start of the competition that you didn't realize until the end?
I think a good advice would be, do this competition. It doesn't have to be someone you know well, but do it with someone that you know you're going to have a good time doing it with. Like, don't do it as like this super serious, like, I want to build my resume. It could help with that, but do it because it's something fun. It's something that you're like, I have a really fun idea for this that we're all kind of excited to talk about.
Yeah, I'd say when choosing a theme, choose something not necessarily what would be the best to make the most money as a theme park or what would entice investors the most. Do something that is fun for you to put down in this PowerPoint and like make this whole presentation about that you're really passionate to keep going with. Because I think the thing that kept all of us going is like it was so intriguing to do this research, create these attractions that there was nothing like it before, but not with these themes at all. So as long as you just make sure you're having fun and not taking things too seriously, then it's fun. But put serious effort into it.
Yeah, I'd have to say, like, definitely, like, when you're on a team like this and, like, this specific kind of competition, like, you have to be with people that truly care and are willing to pull their effort, and especially, like, in the end, like, in, the last few days, like, before it was due, like, we all committed to being there, and even though, like, David was sick, he was still, like, wherever, were you at home?
Yep, in bed with my laptop.
Yeah, like, David was in bed with his laptop sick, and he still, like, got his work done, so it's definitely, like, the passion and, like, caring about each other as a team, and then, like, just, like, striving towards the end and, like, trying to make everything, like, 110% effort. So, yeah, my advice would be to just, like, really, stick with your teammates and get to the end and stay passionate about it. Otherwise, you shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, I'd definitely echo all of that. And, having the right people was, I think, the biggest thing that we benefited from. Of, we had people that were both, very passionate about this, but, who were very fun to work with. I think one of the big things that we did do that was super important was looking at all the past winners and kind of comparing them against each other and thinking what kinds of things set them apart. What things do we like about their layout? What things do we think that we liked and could improve on? So like the ride trailer and like the soundtrack, we'd seen something like that in a bunch of the past winners and thought this could really take us that extra leg and making us more competitive. But it's also just super fun to do. So I think all of that to say, like, also just be you, bring your originality into it. A lot of this project feels organic and authentic because our relationships with each other were all very organic and authentic. Our conversations and these stories were just super fun to put together. Down to like the Loveland Frog, the entire project was just a meme because Loveland is right in our backyard, and that was something that we would just laugh about, or we'd find different things on Instagram and screenshot it and send it into a group chat of like, hey, I just saw this cryptid. So I think it's a lot of that is just being with the right people, and not being afraid to have our originality kind of poured out into the project.
Yeah, and I would say take risks. I don't think we used CAD at all, and we still did. I mean, obviously very well, and I think take those risks because we were debating whether to use it or not, and we're like, we should just draw, like use our creativity, draw, like make it look really good. It paid off, and I'm really thankful that we made the decisions we did. So
yeah, it really was just chasing fun, which is
it was.
Definitely really good advice, and I would echo what you said about using your resources. Go back and look at the previous presentations. Go listen to the previous interviews I did with the other teams. Lots of good advice for that, not just for the presentation, but for I think overall just mindset and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was there anything else from the presentation that you wanted to highlight that I might have missed?
We didn't talk about the Loveland Frog meet and greet. So, Loveland Frog, you might think it kind of feels tacked on to the Loch Ness Monster expedition, but a fun fact is that there's actually a castle in Loveland, Ohio. It's kind of like the castle in Loch Ness. So I kind of felt like they kind of went together, and we also all thought Loveland Frog was such a funny meme to include, being in our backyard pretty much. So it's very similar to the other walkthroughs. And I kind of, for this, I drew up like an image of the Loveland Frog, and the instant that I showed it to everyone, I think it was Audrey, kind of seemed to fall in love with it and be like, I want a shirt of that. So if you look later on in the merch shop, Audrey used the image that I drew in one of the shirt designs.
The Love Frog.
Yeah. Forget about friendship. It was the Loveland Frog that was the glue for the team to bring us all together.
Yeah, like we all agreed, I pretty much solely worked on the Untamed Treasures merch shop, and we might be making t-shirts, especially the Loveland Frog. We're very passionate about him, and I guess to just touch on the shop really quick, I tried to make it sort of like a museum and a merch store where you could get classic things like t-shirts or pins, and you could get a new Discovery band if you wanted to, while also including things unique to a Cryptid Entertainment Center, like camo pants or night vision goggles and camouflage stuff, and also you could get Mothman and Loveland Frog plushies, and pretty much walk through the store and see cool cryptid stuff, the history and cool art, which I included Ella's posters in there. And the little touch on the top where you can see outside the windows, see Mothman potentially if you're going to the fitting room and stuff. And being able to use your Discovery band in the fitting rooms, it's kind of just I try to tie all the things we used everywhere else in the merch shop. But yeah, that was cool to work on.
Yeah, and the theming for Untamed Treasures. Originally, I know one of the ideas we threw around was to have it be like the Yeti's Cave of Wonders, how to be like an icy cave with things that the Yeti had collected over time, and that's the merchandise you're buying. And then the mansion that is now the theme of Untamed Treasures was originally going to be the theme for Mothman the Ride, have the station be like a mansion. But then that became the CDA headquarters pretty much. And so we decided to have the Museum of Antiquities mansion kind of thing be our merchandise shop, and that felt a lot more fluid and realistic, I guess, for things where you would be making purchases.
Yeah, I think it was, one of the major takeaways from doing this competition was kind of seeing the ways that ideas evolve. We started out with, what can we do, and thinking of all these different possibilities. And then as you start to hunker down and think of more ideas and measure them against each other and kind of build off of one of each other, you see them kind of morph into this one singular final product. So I think like that life cycle was important to understand, of the ways that ideas can both change and develop, mature, and work together, all synchronously.
Congratulations again on winning the competition. Your project was awesome. So
Thank
much
you.
attention to detail, great artwork, great design, great theme.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Usually the last question I like to ask, what is your favorite theme park attraction or roller coaster? Or if you don't have one, which one do you want to go on if you could go on anyone in the world?
Mine is Velocicoaster. Absolutely insanely fun ride. Just mix in those thrills with that dinosaur theming.
Yes. Love that ride. So good.
I'd say my favorite ride is Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man at Islands of Adventure. Also at the same park, but I think I like that one the best.
I'll have to get real specific and say Hagrid's at night front row on the bike. Because I specifically had an experience of on Hagrid's at night in the bike. And, when it's dark enough that you can't see the track, but light enough that you can see in front of you. And then we emerged from down under, and we get up, and the fireworks happened right as we arrived at the ride ended. That was just unreal.
Wow.
For me, like coaster, probably I still need to build up my coaster count, but Millennium Force is probably my favorite for also nostalgic reasons. But like my favorite ride is Splash Mountain, which like I'm emotionally connected to since my childhood, and I'm looking forward to it reopening as Tiana's Bayou Adventure. So
Sorry, I think my favorite ride is probably, I was gonna say Hagrid's, but it's still free. Probably Revenge of the Mummy. I just love that ride. It's so fun. I don't know. Roller coaster, probably Iron Gwazi, I would say.
If I can mention my favorite roller coaster too, throw it in there. Intimidator 305 at King's Dominion. Peak.
Yeah, I'm debating between changing mine.
All good options, all good rides. Well, thank you guys again for taking the time to answer our questions, give us some insight on the competition.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, thanks so much, Nick.
And that'll do it for another episode of the Coaster101 Podcast. Thanks so much for listening. You can connect with the show by hitting us up on all social media at Coaster101. We also have this little thing called a website at coaster101.com. Also, be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss an episode. Please give us a rating and review wherever you listen, as it helps new listeners find us. And as always, thanks to Justin from JMMB Entertainment for our theme song. See ya.